here in Johannesburg, South Africa. It could be morning anywhere else. Blessed afternoon all the way from South Africa. We are on this podcast, a very interesting podcast for that matter. It's about family, God's design, the blueprint from God. We look at everything else that is happening around us and how it impacts on family values, and on family according to the way the Lord has prescribed families to be. So we've been having interesting discussions and debates. This is the fourth episode, very interesting stuff. And things that we began talking about from when we started from the very first episode, quite interesting stuff about the Bela bill. There's a lot of uproar in South Africa about this bill. And we've been talking about it basically every single episode that we have had. So today I'm with somebody very special who was very passionate about things family, things education, things economy, every other aspect you can think of. Andile Shaban, you're welcome on this podcast. You are a mother, you are an entrepreneur, you work with, issues that pertain to family and how those issues affect family. Welcome. And greet everybody who is participating.
Thank you so much, Pastor. It is such an honor and a privilege to be here and to have worked with you, from the beginning about the Bela bill and the family structures and what God's design is, and how we can share the knowledge and bring it out there to people that, this is what God had intended from the beginning. And let us not forget that this is what God had intended. And it is truly an honor and a privilege to be here and to be part of the podcast.
We went everywhere talking to people about the Bela bill. So it was quite interesting how people were saying, we've been ignorant. I didn't even know any Bela bill, not to mention what is contained in the bill itself. And now it is affecting them already. When we told them the last time that get into it, understand what it is all about, and it's quite interesting how, if you just speak to a few people that we have spoken to, how much more the whole of South Africa who may not know what the bill is all about and how it is going to impact their lives, the lives of their children in particular, and the lives of, the family structure, in a way. So there is a lot to be done. There's more information to be shared, more people engaged, more, schools engaged, more parents engaged, so that people, in as much as, people are talking implementation, which we will get to, they need to know how to interact, with all of these things, whether from policy level or to implementation and the impact that it will have on their children, just for them to be awake every day, to look at every aspect of policy implementation, that may impact them. And our dear man of God, Pastor Chris, has really taught us a lot about, how to look deeply into any situation. So now we look with our eyes wide open. Any policy that comes, we want to see how is it going to impact. Microscope. Because we never did that before, and there's this saying that if you want to trick a black man, put everything in writing, and those small rights, and that's how even policies and bills are written. It's not in a very friendly format. small things, and they quote here, they quote there. So it's all to make people, disengage in a way with, with policy. But it is time for everyone to look into everything that will ultimately impact you. When they say there's a health bill, there's an education bill, there's a Bela bill, jump in, get involved, participate in debates. Those bills are supposedly taken to communities for input. As a parent, have you been there?
Yes,
to engage, at least, even if whatever decisions might be taken, but at least engage and understand what is going on here. It's really interesting times in South Africa. Yesterday, South Africa was buzzing. Buzzing everywhere. Bela bill, there's people interpreting, the bill itself, and also the whole situation around the bill, the signing of the bill. Oh my God.
And some were just waking up yesterday about this thing. Some were just, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're signing. What are we signing? and yet, you're so right when you say that with the implementations of policies, so many of us have been so blind and so ignorant about what is really going on. And as you're saying that our dear man of God has been teaching us to really be aware and to see what is going on in our world, and to be a part of it, be a part of the change, be a part of the implementations. Let the things that are being implemented be the things that you want for your children, because what we don't realize is that when a bill is put through and it is for basic education, that is directly aimed at young children. So if you are directly aiming something at young children, that means that you are building the next generation. And because now you are cultivating these young people, their minds are going to be filled with these policies, and these policies, which is very interesting. Yesterday I saw that the president's speech was also talking about the new constitution. Most of us don't even know what is entailed in the new constitution. So now the Bela bill is said to be aligning with the new constitution.
So if people don't know, there's also a new constitution.
Yeah.
So we need to look at all of that. If we are talking about new constitution and the president is saying it, it means it is there. I'm not aware there's a new constitution. I'm still...
You're still with the 1994
constitution. So a lot has changed, but people don't know. When was it passed? When was it discussed?
Who was involved?
Oh my God.
So it is so great that now we are having more and more platforms where we can speak out, and our dear man of God was saying that freedom of speech. We must be able to have freedom of speech. That's what democracy is about. For us to be able to speak freely about these things, for us to be able to really sit around the table, meditate, mediate, and see what is really being presented to us, and not for us just to be zombies that are just blindly following all of these things that are meant to impact our lives and to change our lives.
But also this issue, remember, we raised with the representative from the Department of Basic Education.
Yes, Mr. James.
Yes, and we asked these questions but the community does not know. I mean, the fact that people are still asking, what is Bela bill?
Yes.
And it is there's a big issue, but it is a bill that is being passed.
Yes.
You don't know what it is. So he promised that they will be going around to engage the communities, and I want to believe that they're going to go big on that, engage with them, and still says, because a bill does not necessarily speak to the specifics on how the implementation will be carried out.
Yes,
so that implementation process is still has to be ironed out. Through the regulations, and the whole rollout plan. We need to see what is going on there. It is very important. So let's just get back to what happened.
The buzz, yesterday's buzz.
The buzz.
Friday the 13th of September. Indeed, it was Friday the 13th. Every day is blessed, but hey, yesterday, Friday the 13th. So this bill was passed yesterday by the President of South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa, and he was very confident in saying that this bill is passed on the 13th of September, and because they have been going through so many negotiations, and but the statement that intrigued me, he said that he knows and he is aware that there are people in the GNU that are opposing the signing of this Bela bill, and therefore, but then he says that only clause 4 and 5 are going to be delayed in implementation. But then if we're going back to what you were saying, that the whole Bela bill, there's nothing that actually says that this is how it's going to be implemented. Is it going to be implemented in phases? If it's going to be implemented in phases, those who are affected, especially teachers, HODs and SGBs, are they being trained in this new implementation of this Bela bill? How are they going to implement it in their own community, in their own schools? And what I liked what Ubab Jane Leber said, he said that yes, he does agree that they did not really expose it and go around communities and really educate people about this Bela bill. Hence the reason why when people are making an uproar about certain things and then they say, no, but this is not in the Bela bill, this is in the curriculum. But people, when they see the Department of Basic Education, they don't divide it. They don't say, okay, these are the people that do policies, these are the people that do curriculum, these are the SGPs.
You are the Department of Education.
Yes, you are the
Tell us.
Yes.
We want to know.
We want to know.
So that goes back to the whole silo operations, in many of our departments.
Yes.
This affects us. So it's one, when they are together, what are they talking about? When he left here, did he engage the department to say that these are things that people are raising?
Yes.
Can we look into it so that I get empowered when next I go to engage? I can talk broadly about the things that we are doing as a department. We don't know faces, we know the department.
Yes.
Okay, let's get back to the issue that you've just raised about the GNU. Why would people go into a GNU if bills will be signed without the consent or agreement with the GNU, members? So that raises, very serious issues for us, because if it starts with education, it might go to another department. So do we even have a GNU? Do we understand what a GNU is or what it is aimed to achieve? Because right now, we see, that with the bill, there are differing views about, what should happen. Let's just focus on those two clauses that he spoke about. What are those clauses? And what are the issues being raised around those clauses?
When we go back to saying that GNU, it's supposed to stand for Government of National Unity. For me, as far as I know, unity means that we are united in our thinking.
United we stand.
United we stand. So which means that even in policies, we are supposed to be united. So, and normally you would have...
And the debates must, happen in the background.
In the background, you come out.
You come out. We must see unity in what you are saying. A united front.
Yes, indeed.
So if already there's no united front, where are we heading to?
Indeed, where are we heading to? Which means that our GNU is going to be spending time in negotiating in front of us, in having debates in front of us, so that we can see that they are putting some what they are talking about things.
Is it a front?
Is it a front? What is it? Because I would think that if you are joining inside a government of national unity, it's because you have the same you have the same views, you have the same policies as what you want the country to be, to look like. You know, you have the same vision basically as to what. Because I mean, the opposing parties, they are basically having the same vision as to what they are opposing about. So now, if the ones that are in power are separated, are segregated, who are we really following? Is it still the ANC only who is in power, but it is in disguise, or is it the DA is still the number one opposing? So
and there's MK
and then there's there's MK opposing the opposing, there's EFF opposing the opposing. So what are we really doing as a country? Where are we going as a country? I
mean, I would love these issues. In fact, the Bela bill to be discussed, like robust discussions in Parliament. That's what we want to see. Because yes, there's been consultation everywhere about the bill.
But consulting with who?
That is a discussion for another day, because I heard that, those consultations did not really mean anything, because with people's views, their inputs that they put in, the government was set on the things that they wanted
to do, yes.
So maybe let's go back to, those clauses that a contention now.
The clauses that are a contention.
In Parliament, or in the GNU, or whichever one it is, and which are delayed for implementation, at this stage.
So basically, Pastor, they're saying that clause 4 that is going to be delayed for 3 months, and clause 5, which was said by the president. So obviously, okay, I'll just read it verbatim what it says. It says that by the insertion after subjection 1 of the following subjections, it says that number 1A, any learner whose parent or guardian has not provided required documents, whether of the learner or such adult person acting acting on behalf of the learner during the application for admission, shall nonetheless be allowed to attend school. Okay. Then 1B says the principal of the school must advise the parent or guardian to secure the required documents. All right. So then what is the DA saying? Because I have to call them the DA because I don't know. I can't call them the GNU because because the other GNU has just signed. so this is what the DA says. So they want for in line to insert in line with the Constitution. In the relevant legislation. So instead of saying that it should be the required document, and it should be the president, the principal who is advising the parents, but it must be in line with the Constitution or relevant legislation. Okay, so now, first of all, we have a new constitution. I'm not fully aware of of anything that has changed regarding basic education in the new constitution, besides the fact that now it's going to be an inclusive education legislation, which is including all languages, all cultures, all sexual orientations and things like that. So it's something that we'll really need to go into at a later stage. And then obviously they were saying they want them to substitute if or there, or it's a very English. It's very Englishanized,
because if we are not even agreeing on the terms, how will the implementation take place?
Yes. So what they say is that they want on page 8 from line 25 to omit or may return into the governing body with such recommendation as may have necessary in the circumstances, together with reasons of such recommendation. So it's the recommendation that has been made by the principal. So they're saying basically that they want to omit that whole section. that all of these recommendations can just be done by the principal. So basically, they want to put in that it should be in line or in relevance to the legislation and new constitution. And then, okay, but for me,
so let's talk in simple English
yes.
for people who are at home to understand what this really means. Because legal terms can be quite cumbersome, for a lot of people. So in simple English, what does the bill say to a parent, to the governing body about the child?
Yes. So I think, Pastor, it's really going back to see that, okay, if you are registering a child in school, as we all have children, so what are the documents that are normally required by the school? Because this thing is basically around the documentation that is required. We have urban schools, we have township schools, we have rural schooling. You'll find that most children in rural schooling, those children were born at home. Maybe they might not have the relevant health documentation and things like that. I know that for every single school, they'll want the immunization card, they'll want birth certificates, they want IDs from both parents, and things like that. So now, I think now it's where government is saying that, okay, now everything has to work together. The Department of Home Affairs has to work together with the Department of Education. The Department of Health has to work together with the Department of Basic Education. So if the child does not have a birth certificate, it is not the Department of Basic Education's fault. Now that one now is being thrown into the Department of Health. So what is the Department of Health going to be doing about making sure that each and every single child attains a birth certificate? Okay, then I think for me, it comes to immunization. Okay, the laws of South Africa, they're saying that, according to the immunization card, the child is immunized before they get out of the hospital. If you're in a government hospital, you immunize the child. If the child is born in a private hospital, the consent of the yes, you have an option. The consent of the parent is asked. Meanwhile, in a government hospital, it's not really asked. The child comes back to you is already immunized. So then the immunization processes go up until the child is at the age of 6, and I know that right now they were talking about
30 immunizations.
Yes, 30
from monkeypox to everything
to all of those things. So I'm not even going to go into what vaccines vaccines have and all of that. But now I'm not sure as to why the DA is so into this clause 4 about documentation. I know that right now in the GNU, the Minister of Home Affairs is a DA member, and he's been trending a lot about changing a lot of things in the Home Affairs. So I'm not. I can't really link the two as to why really are we so focused on this particular thing, on documentation. Is it about knowing where you can track where the child is from? Is it making sure that we have all the stats in place in our knowing the demographics and things like that? I'm not really sure why are we so focused on this particular clause.
What I saw actually from the DA side, was that they are saying it should not be forced on the education system to put children through from grade R.
Yes,
which is something that is provided for in this bill. So they are saying they don't have a budget,
for grade R's.
For grade R's.
Okay.
And the government is saying, no, we want children to start at grade R in a schooling setting, so that we don't experience the kind of issues we are experiencing currently, where learners are not able to read.
Yes, because all of those things are taught in foundation phase.
With things that are taught in foundation. So what is the issue? I'm also, wondering what the issue is really, for DA, if there is a provision that children must start early, in a school setting, so that they can learn all of those things. But for me, it goes back to, saying the foundation. Yes, a grade R is the foundation, but there's also foundation before that time.
Yes,
from 1 to 5 years old. What happens to a child, during that time?
When they're in creche and...
when they are in creche, what are they learning?
Yes.
So it's about going deeper into, understanding what is happening in our schooling system from that very time when a child enters a creche or a daycare center. What are they being taught? What are they,
because those ones are not regulated.
I hear that most of government and school institutions, they are fighting Miss Rachel. Because, we have seen a lot of children come out of those programs. It's every day.
Yes.
The children know everything. They can write, they can read, they can
They
do
know
everything.
colors, they know
colors.
yes.
Yet, when they go to our preschooling, they come out, I don't know what they do. Is it they sleep all day? What is happening?
They
I remember my daughter when she started school, she came back, I was excited, yo. So how was it? She said, no, we ate and we slept. So if you take your child to a school and they come back and they tell you they ate and slept in the day, so it's a cause of concern. If that is the only thing a child could remember, they can't remember colors, they can't remember anything else. So it's the bill, I know it talks about basic education, but surely basic education is from that creche where the child is learning, how to read. You can now catch them in grade 4, where when they are, it's not too late though. But I'm saying they can do better.
Yes.
Starting early with refining, the curriculum at that level. Because right now people are excited about sex education. What about the curriculum for somebody to learn how to read and write?
Mechanical, chemical, when you're going to, I'm just going back to what your child was saying, your daughter was saying when they were still in creche, and they're saying we ate and we slept. My daughter, she's now 6. But when we sent her to creche, because her sisters were doing homeschooling, so she was seeing what was happening, and so she was learning so much at home. Then when we sent her to I think it was grade RRR. Yeah, and then she went to school, and then like as you are saying, we're very excited you went to school. So what did you learn today? She's like, Mommy, I learned absolutely nothing. I'm like, what do you mean you learned absolutely nothing? You must have played, you must have done colors, but she's like, but I know that. I even know how, she was 3 years old. And she's like, but I know that. I know how to count to 50. I learned it at home. I know how to do all of this. At school, I didn't learn anything.
So, having gone through that, do you think homeschooling is the way to go? For most parents, what resources are required, for people to do homeschooling? How has it helped, your children? Because now the government is saying grade R must be in school. So just your experience of homeschooling with your children. I know that you've just said part of it, but the totality and the well-being of your children who have gone through homeschooling as compared to those who are in schools.
I do feel that they learned more when they were still at home, when they were going through homeschooling. Obviously, I think the only part that was missing with them was the social interaction. But the grade 1s, they learned how to do PowerPoint presentations from grade 1. And these are normally things that people only learn once they get to high school. In
fact, when we start working, we say do a presentation. PowerPoint.
Yes.
You wonder what is that.
Yes. So I actually learned how to. It's very interesting. I learned how to do Canva through my kids, because I was still doing it the old way. I was still doing my PowerPoint the old way. Then at school they were learning about Canva, how to create logos, how to cut and paste, how to do presentations, and things like that, how to do e-cards. They were doing e-cards. And then I started learning more about Canva, and now I use Canva for my work, and these are things that we're being taught to grade ones, and also it teaches them how to be proactive, because every single day the other one they'll say, okay, mom, I need to prepare for tomorrow, so they will make sure that everything of theirs is prepared, because they start school at 7. It's an online school. It's homeschooling. The only thing I might say is that if you're an entrepreneur parent, then it does require a lot of your time, but it also does need you to be flexible as a parent, because they enter school at 7:00. By 1:00 they're done. So then you need to fill up their space.
Now that you're talking about online and homeschooling, what's the difference? Because they were doing online schooling at home. So what is the buzz about homeschooling if they still have external people teaching them, but in their home environment?
It's still called homeschooling, even though it's online, because they will need constant supervision from a parent. But you can go full on homeschooling, where you have to register in the Department of Education as a teacher, and saying that you are homeschooling your kids, and then the curriculum that you are teaching them on, so that even when they are writing their exams, you can actually submit those things to the Department of Education and say, okay, these are the exams that they wrote, these are the all the SBAs that they wrote, and things like that. This is what they actually went through. So when you are a parent, all of that responsibility is on you. But if they're doing online homeschooling, that responsibility is done by that institution that is doing the online. So they mark the SBAs. They're the ones who do the exam, the tests and things like that. So for me, I found that a bit easier, because I'm not a trained teacher. So after that, I just become a guide. To guide them. Okay, this is what they're going to be requiring from school, so I need to make sure that those things are ready. If it means that they need any extra teaching and any extra explanation on something, then I'm constantly there for that. It's just that because all of them were doing it, so it meant that you needed to separate your time to say, okay, because the other one is a bit older, I'll help her with her homework. The other one still is in the foundation phase. You have to be constantly there, because they're going to be asking questions. But the online schooling is very, with the ones that we actually entered, they're very accommodative, especially to the children. The children can ask questions even after the classes. No matter what time it is, the teachers take time.
So do they also run on the same time for schooling? So if they are starting at 7:00, do they end at 1, 2, or is it a full day?
No. They get given their timetable. So they will state that, okay, you're starting at 7:00, and then at 10:00 you have this one, and ban you have this, and then they also put in their timetable as well their reading time. What times they're actually supposed to be reading on their own, what time are they supposed to be learning on their own. So they also
it requires
put it inside.
discipline.
It does, but it teaches the child a lot of discipline as well, because they become very structured. They actually surprise you. Because now they're so used to structuring their lives for school that they end up structuring everything about themselves.
Is there any provision in the Bela bill for
homeschooling?
The reason why I'm asking you is just what you have explained, and I'm thinking, we've seen children go to school, they come back like nothing happened.
Yes.
In a schooling environment. And we have a bill that is just being passed, and there are, some learning methods that work and then prove to be working, elsewhere. So instead, like I said earlier on, they will be talking about, how they want to deal with sex education. What about basic things about learning how to write, learning how to read? Are we really focusing on the future, like we are claiming to be?
Yes.
Are we really focusing on the future? We have a lot of young people right now who have university degrees, but they can't even use them.
Yes,
so what is the point of having gone through 12 years plus another 4 or 5 years of university, and yet you can't do anything by yourself, or you can't even get a job elsewhere. So when we talk about the basic education, this Bela bill should be able to address those things. Our kids learning skills, from there. Don't tell me about sex education. What skills are they learning? Can they do this? Can they come and engage on a podcast, as children, to grow themselves, to understand what things are happening there? Do they even know how to set up all of these things? When you look at, I had a privilege of going to Brazil some years back. I don't know if they still implement, that from schooling, from crash. Those kids learn how to use their hands. They do fine arts.
Yes.
They make bags. They learn how to sell, entrepreneurship. These are daily things that these kids, I don't know if Bela Bill covers those kind of things, on how to be entrepreneurial from a young age.
Yes.
So that, now our kids are grown, they're looking for a job, they can create job for themselves, but the education system is not really getting them there, preparing them for a future. So what future are we talking about here?
Pastor, for I saw that the president kind of he kind of went a bit over where he said that the homeschooling is now going to be kind of aligned also to the Bela bill. I'm not sure in what way that he actually meant that. Maybe it's because of the documentation processes, that because now children that are homeschooled, they also need to have those I don't know who we're submitting those documents to, but but now every single child that is being homeschooled also needs the necessary documentation as a child that is attending physical school. And as you are saying that, yes, in the normal schools as we are in right now, and I'm sure also the teachers are a bit frustrated because they work so hard to make sure that these kids pass their matrics and they go on to the next level. But they can't implement anything more than what is allocated for them in the curriculum. But when you are actually doing homeschooling, you can explore so many different things because the children are always on gadgets. I'm not saying that kids should not be kids, because they need to find time for them to go and play outside, become kids, and things like that. As I'm saying is that you need to be disciplined in the way that you are actually doing it as well. Or my eldest one, whenever she was finished with her courses, because then she started liking instrumentals and orchestra and things like that, then she started teaching herself violin, because she had access to this online world where now she's seeing that I can actually study anything. I can actually learn anything. And the basics of the violin, she taught herself using the online system, and even with playing chess, she taught herself using the online system. Now, if your child is at school, in a physical school, they will be told by their teacher what to do, when to do it, and the way that they're supposed to be doing it. They don't actually have a way that they can experiment on their own thoughts as to, no, I like to do this, so let me do it like this. I like to do it this way, let me do it like this. So there's only one solution, because the teacher that is teaching, this is how they've been taught as well.
I would love the Bela bill to make provision for things like those, entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Teaching children skills. Teach them how to run businesses. I participated in a global. They called it the World Cup. So it was a global competition for learners in primary school, like standard 6. What grade is that? So I was adjudicating on that program. We had kids from the US, we had kids from China, from Nigeria, and from South Africa. And they were competing on ideas, on businesses they started at school. And one of those, the group actually from Nigeria, they were running a tomato business within the school environment.
Wow.
The school had equipment to do tomato processing into puree, into tomato sauce, into all of that. And they involved the community. So they were buying tomatoes from the community. And so they had a team that will go and scout for tomatoes everywhere in the community. They have a team that does processing. They have a team that does marketing now. The products are ready, packaging of the product, quality control. At that age, when we were interviewing, I was, my mind, was like, I was looking at this child. This child came and said, I'm the CEO of this company. And she spoke the right language, quality assurance. So you ask questions. I remember at some point, somebody was asking about what quality assurance processes do you have in place? I looked at the person and think, but this is a child. That child came and started explaining, these are the quality, and exactly what they had put in place. The marketing team comes and says, this is how we market. This is how we take our products everywhere else. Do you know that in that school, they gave $1 million US dollars at that time to Haiti during the time when Haiti was experiencing natural disaster from a school, a business that they were running in a school. So, for me, this is what the bill has to focus on. Not on all these things that we are talking about.
Not taking power from SGBs and giving it to HODs.
What are we talking about?
Now you can raise funds.
You can sell alcohol and raise funds. Teach the children how to do business. Let them come up with ideas. Like you're saying, these kids have explored so much that if we were to put them in a room and say, we want to start a business, what do you think we need to sell in this place? So those are the things really, personally, I would love to see in a bill that is aimed at building a future, for this nation. Agriculture is food. When we were growing up, we did agriculture in school. We were growing tomatoes, we were growing all of that. And it was such a big thing. They don't do any of those things. Yet we are talking about food shortage. And even in the home environment, in our homes, people no longer do subsistence farming, to take care of their basic needs. So what have we become? We have discarded all the things that were meant to build us, to build our families, to build our economy, to build our nation. This is what we are supposed to be talking about. All of these other things are really peripheral as far as I'm concerned. Yes, decision made, the parents not be able to make decisions. Okay, there are issues also being raised, by the bill that people are not reading the bill. They are still stuck in the past, the early age of the bill being put together. Because some of these things about the role of the parent being taken away, the principals giving more powers over the children, the issues around sex education and the rights for these children to be what they want to be. So what do you think of that? Were they really removed or they were placed elsewhere? That because this is where the focus is. If they have removed it, I'm sure it is put in somewhere.
Yes, I do believe that things have been made vague on purpose. Yes, things have been made vague on purpose. They don't ultimately remove a whole clause, but they will tweak the clause so that it doesn't make us Christians have an uproar. you know. And also what I think that what has happened is that like as we were talking earlier, that now when you as a parent and when you as a civilian look at the Department of Education, you don't think that there are certain sections that it's been sectionalized, and then you also don't think that especially when what the president said, like I'll keep on referencing back when he says that now we have aligned with the Constitution, and yes, with the new Constitution, and including the diversity of who we are as South Africa. So how diverse?
So, but how
diverse are we? Diverse? So
no, I just need to understand. You know, have I changed from who I am since 1994? Have we changed? Have we become something else? I don't know. Maybe
at the
there's something I'm missing somewhere.
At the end of the day, they have a certain vision as to where they want to be, and the whole country or the whole world has to be, because the thing is with South Africa, I don't isolate them and say that no, this is what South Africa is doing. South Africa is aligning themselves with the WEF. It's aligning themselves with your NATO's, with all of those countries, and now it would be very foolish of us to be thinking that South Africa is doing this thing very independently. South Africa wants to align with certain powers that be, so that certain things can come in easy into South Africa for them to be able to implement whatever it is that they want to implement. Obviously, we won't go into those conspiracy theories, but it is what it is. And when we go back to what this podcast is about, where we say it's God's design, we know that we were.
This is the basic.
Yes, this is the basic.
We are saying who we are. It is who God defines us to be.
Yes, and we are meant to be creators. So when you are talking about,
and if God has given us freedoms,
yes,
why would people take away our freedom?
Our freedom. So now what you see is that barriers have been put in, especially from a very young age, for you not to be a creative, for you not to be able to think in a very creative way. We are right now, a child, when I'm asking a child, what do you want to be? They want to be employed. They're not thinking that I can actually create my own future. They're not thinking that I can actually create my own food. I can produce my own food. And yet this is what we originally are. This is our DNA, where we are able to create, where we are able to produce. That's what we are meant to do. That's what makes us happy as human beings, when we create something and when we see that thing working for us. For instance, right now, I think maybe they want to make us like some children in the US. When you ask them where does milkshake come from, they will tell you that it comes from a brown cow chocolate milkshake. Or you ask a child where do eggs come from, they tell you they come from the shop. They don't even know that eggs are produced by chicken. So that's where now they want our reliance to go into, so that we as a nation, as a generation, we are fully reliant on suppliers, on people,
on being fed all manner of information.
Yes, on being fed, which means that even when you feed me poison now, I won't know that you are feeding me poison, which is your whole GMO system. Now you are feeding me poison, but because I cannot produce my own food, I have to rely on you producing that for me. So as you are saying, for the Bela Bill, it would have been very nice for them to include in there the things that will equip our children to be able to create things, electronically, to be able to create things agriculturally, to focus on agriculture. A few years back, Pastor, there's a school in Ulundi. it's a school of agriculture. It's an agricultural school. I was so fascinated with the way that they were working. They had pigs, they had an abattoir, they had a chicken coop, they had vast lands where they were growing mushrooms, they were growing corn, and they were selling these things, these products, in their nearby Pick n Pays, in their spas nearby. And this is how the school was actually operating.
And
generating income. So and the children that were going into that school were children from the community, and they were not paying huge sums of monies as you are doing in your private schools and things like that. They were going to school knowing that I'm going to a school of agriculture. By the time I come out of here, I will know how to grow a pig. I will know how to breed chicken. I will know how to slaughter them. I know how to package them. I know how to sell them. And this is what the kids were doing. It's not the teachers that were doing it. The teachers were just equipped to be able to teach. So now with the Bela bill, you are including a new policy, but you are not even saying that, okay, the implementation phases are going to be like this, and we are also going to be providing training for, come on, I don't trust
now
anybody.
that you are saying it, since 1994, we have had the change of education system every 5 years.
Yes.
I don't know where the teachers find themselves who have been in the system since then, because they've changed. I need to now even remember what all of those different systems were called. So they introduced a new system, like very experimental with the lives of our children, with the future of this country. So we are experimenting, go and, copy one education system
from the US. We had the CAPS. We had what was the one previous to that the teachers really did not know what they were doing, because everything was group work. Everything was based on group work. So they really did not know. But Ma, what is intriguing right now? If the whole minister of basic education boycotted coming into the signing of the Bela bill, and then she puts a statement to say she is opposing it. So now, okay, you have the minister, you have principals, you have teachers. All of these people, this is their leader. So if my leader is saying that they are opposing the implementation of this, so
and they are saying she has been part of the planning, or the sign off.
Yes.
So she received instructions from powers that be that she should boycott. But what does that boycott really mean? Does it mean anything? Are things going to change the way they want to, or it is just buying of time from the president's side? I think. But what was really pushing for the bill to be signed, if there were still?
If there are still negotiations about it, and there's still people who are opposing it, and the united government is not united on it, so
why rush into signing it? That is the question for me right now. That I don't want to say many things, on this particular podcast, but I remember the person that we had from the department said it is going to be signed.
Yes, he did.
Anybody likes it or
yes,
not.
He did. He said on the 13th of September,
and
whether you like it or not, it will be signed. And at that time, my mouth was agape. I'm like, whether we like it or not. But it happened.
But it shows how many of the bills come into being. The input segment, I don't know if it means anything. Which is really, it deeply affects everything about who you are. That you go into meetings, you make inputs, and the director actually said, yes, it's making inputs, but it does not necessarily mean we are hearing you.
Yes,
in a way, we are hearing you, but this is what we want to do. We have done research, we have done all of this, and this is where we want to be. So why still take it on the public in the public domain to be discussed if it does not mean anything?
You know, Pastor, I think for me the main thing is that you are introducing something that is affecting children, affecting educators, affecting parents. But at the end of the day, when you are introducing this policy, you are only introducing it to the educators. But it doesn't only affect educators. And then after that, you are saying that no, parents are at an uproar because there are certain things that are placed in the Bela bill that they do not approve of. And then you say as governance and policy makers that what they're actually talking about is actually not in the Bela bill, not phrased in the Bela bill, but it is phrased in another policy. So now, does curriculum have a policy that maybe now we need to look at, or does curriculum, how is the curriculum derived? Is it derived from the policies of government? Is it derived from the Constitution? Who is it derived? What is it derived for? How do we choose that now this is the curriculum that is going to happen and this is the curriculum that we are going to be teaching henceforth? And for them to decide on the curriculum, does it stem from the basic laws amendment bill? So now, since now there's a basic laws amendment bill, does that mean now we're going to have a new curriculum? Is that the next step? So they must let us know that, okay, now where do we go and oppose now this thing?
But I think it's a high time that we look at, as parents, you know, even teachers, you know, my prayer is that our eyes of understanding be flooded with light, like what the Bible says, so that we know what is the hope of our calling as parents, the hope of our calling as teachers. So we should know the hope of our calling and do the right things. You know, if people are saying, okay, here is the bill, but you ask about the bill and you speak specifically about things that are probably in the curriculum, and somebody tells you no. You can't ask me that question. I don't deal with the curriculum. So parents need to be awake. You know, look into every aspect of, you know, what is going on in their children's lives.
Yes.
You know, starting with that very curriculum. We need parents to participate in, you know, SGBs, like the school governing bodies, you know, have like committees that look at the curriculum that is being, especially that LO is a very life orientation, life skills. You know, what life skills are we teaching? You know, that particular one, we really need to look into it. In as much as we need to look at every aspect of the curriculum.
Yes.
You know, I read somewhere about one of the countries, you know, that they started re-looking at, I think it's those francophone countries. They've gone back to look at the curriculum. So anything that does not speak well to their country, to their nation, to the minerals that they have, they are removing it. You know, which is so beautiful, because the education that we all went through is the one that teaches us to be inferior. It is the one that teaches us that everything, as in particular this country, everything that comes from America is superior to what we have here in this country. You know, so the whole curriculum, you know, needs to. How do people come and say they discovered a Nile River in our country? They discovered.
You discovered gold in our own country.
You know, tell me, how do you discover a river when you found us there, living from the river? You know, but that is how history went.
Yes.
You know, I remember when I was doing, I think it was standard 6, you know, and we were doing history. And we're learning about Simon van der Stel. Me, I don't even know how I come into having to know who Simon van der Stel is, because it was only teaching us to say this is when they came into the country, you know, and this is who they are. And the questions that were asked were not questions that will make me think,
Yes.
about why were they here?
Yes.
What happened to our minerals? But it's the one that says, when was Simon van der Stel born, or when did he die? So you needed to know the years, who they were, the ships that came in, nothing more. And up until now, I don't even know why I did those kind of subjects
so
when
you are keeping alive somebody else's biography.
Yeah.
You're making it continue so that the next generation does not forget your oppressor.
If we talk about history, we must review the history books. We must rewrite our history accordingly.
Yes.
The way it should have been from the beginning. When we do mathematics, I know people specialize in math, but can our children count? Can they count the money? Can they learn how to use money? Can they learn how to save money? So for me, if we are just going to learn 1 + 1 is 2. Somebody once made a joke and said, in South Africa, instead of the children answering 1 + 1 is 2, they say 1 × 2 is ×2. So instead of even giving the answer, they do ×2. Like 1 × 2.
It becomes a song. 1 + 1.
Is it getting into us? Do we even understand what we are saying? Can our children who are in preschool be able to tell you how many gadgets you have, and they can count 1, 2, 3 gadgets? These are what they are used for and all of that. So we really need to go back into making our education to instill the culture of critical thinking,
yes.
critical engagement, with the subject matter, be allowed to differ. I was talking to somebody who said he taught his children to go back to school. When they go back to school, if they don't agree with something with the teacher, they must bring out the facts, but they must tell the teacher, no, I don't think I agree with you on this aspect. So he was telling me that at school they introduced the whole thing of guy folks, and the kids needed to come to school and they are dressed in scary things that look very
and
demonic
that,
and evil. So the child told the teacher, I don't believe in this, so I will not participate, without even the parents coming to say this. So we really need to instill this in our children ourselves and empower them to be able to live in this environment where there's just so many negative things, coming their way, and yes, the teachers are an authority in a schooling environment, but they are not the authority.
Yes.
They have their own limitations. They have their own beliefs. They should not now force their beliefs on our children.
Pastor, when I just want to go back to what the president actually said, to link it with what you are saying, that the Bela bill on its own, what is it really about? What is it summarizing? And I think from his speech, for me, it's more about being tolerant. Which means that you have to tolerate anything that comes your way, because this is what he said. He says, first of all, homeschooling. He says homeschooling will now be subject to more effective, I don't know effective to who, regulation and oversight. Okay, so I don't know how they aim to regulate and oversee what is going on with homeschooling. And then he says that to promote inclusivity, the law guides schools on the development of codes of conduct. So which means that now the school codes of conduct are also going to be changed because of this Bela bill, that take into account respect for religious and cultural beliefs. Okay.
So will they respect my beliefs? As a Christian, to say, I don't want this in my school.
That is where we go. So now what I want to know is that the Bela bill, is it now going to regulate even your so-called Muslim-only school?
They will not.
Christian-only school? Hindu-only school? Are they now going to regulate that? Are they going to be regulating also your Afrikaner schools? Your Afrikaans school? Because your Afrikaans school is not that it is Afrikaans because every single person speaks Afrikaans in that area. Are they going to be regulating now your English-only schools? English is actually a minority speaking people who are actually speaking mostly English in their daily lives. We speak English because we need to communicate to the world, but in most homes, most South African homes, people speak their own native languages, and we have 9 official languages, I think 10 including sign language now, or Fanagalo or something like that, I'm not sure. But we have, it's 11, yes, 11 official languages in South Africa. So now, all of these schools that we have in South Africa, do they come out with the mode of teaching for all 11 languages? And also when you are at school, you learn English as your first language, and then your native language becomes your second additional. Where in other schools, Afrikaans becomes your second additional language. At my home, we don't have a history of Afrikaans. We don't speak in Afrikaans, but my kids at school, they have to learn Afrikaans as a second additional language. Why does it have to be forced in that way? Why can't you say, okay, we have kids in this school that speak the majority, or maybe take the 5 majorities. We have Zulu speaking, Shona speaking, this and this speaking. So these are in the curriculum, we have included this. So children who want to enter isiZulu or want to enter isiSotho or isiPedi or whatever languages, then let them get into those classes. Let them separate and get into those classes, because I bet you in most schools...
They will tell you about resources, but I like your concept of homeschooling. Maybe in such instances, they can separate them and let them attend that language class.
They do
separate.
Yes, they do on online. Like the eldest one was studying isiZulu because isiZulu was there. There was also isiSotho, so those who wanted to study isiSotho, they'll branch off. So for a certain one, they're going to be branching off. So now with all of these other ones, it's so but when he says that language inclusivity, I want to see how that is going to be done. But
they will still tell you about the resources, by the way.
Yes, but just one last one. He says that this is important for fostering a more tolerant learning environment. Then he says, and a more tolerant society. And, us as Christians, we are normally told that we are not tolerant of other people.
But who? When you say tolerant, from which aspect, from which direction?
What are we tolerating?
Yes.
What are we
Can
tolerating?
they tolerate us? Can they tolerate me coming in and speaking in tongues? They must tolerate.
They have to tolerate.
Yes, everybody must.
If they can tolerate a Muslim child saying that every Friday at 1:00 you will not see me because I am going to pray, we have to tolerate that. So why can't we tolerate all of the other things as well? If we have to tolerate a child coming to school bare feet with beads all over because bayatwala, we have to tolerate that, right? And all the other kids in the class have to tolerate that when they're going, they have to tolerate it. So how far? Yes, how far do we go with that?
There's so much to talk about. So we'll look into all these issues as we go on to additional episodes that are coming. Be watchful, participate, and get into the debate. What other issues that you want us to discuss. Be a part of this movement. We are working together, to make sure that we build a better society which is God-centered in this country, South Africa. God is the only, way to go. Jesus Christ said, I'm the way, the only way. He said, the way, the truth, and the light. and
Amen.
nothing else. So thank you so much for coming in. We had a beautiful, discussion on the Bela Bill and what has transpired in our country yesterday. But thank you so much for being with us, and
Thank you so much for
God
having
bless
me.
you, everyone, for coming in to this podcast.